Crossroads Football Live with Sports Director Gino Perez and Sports Reporter Zach Brown. Crossroads Football Live is sponsored by Palace Bingo, Frost Bank, Full Pep, Victoria Dodge Jeep Ram Wagoneer, and Victoria College.
Howdy Crossroads, and welcome to week 4 of Crossroads Football Live. I'm Sports Director Gino Perez, and I'll be your host tonight just like every other night. Now this is the final week before district starts, and some are even having their bye weeks, including the 5A schools like Victoria East and Victoria West. Now Crossroads, I'm going to be honest with y'all, this is going to be a very unique show because some of the highlights are going to be a lot longer than usual because the games we were scheduled to go to all got canceled because of this darn rain. I know we needed it, but hey, when it's football season, sometimes I wish that rain would just go away for just a little bit, or at least the lightning at least. Well, this is the first time for me in 4 years that I have been here that this show is going to be completely different than what I ever remember, but still it's going to be entertaining as ever. Like always, we will check in with sports reporter Zach Brown, who was at the game of the week between Yoakum and Calhoun, and that one went down to the wire. But before that, let's go ahead and see those highlights. Now, this game was much anticipated between the Bulldogs and the Sand Crabs, and for those thinking this was going to be a run-through by Yoakum, the Sand Crabs said, "Here comes the boom," knocking off helmets early on in the game. But the Bulldogs said, all right, we'll take that one on the chin and keep pushing forwards. Quyon Williams gets the handoff, shows off his speed, elusiveness. Can he go all the way? He's got a lot of green in front of him, but no, he's eventually pushed out of bounds in great field position. Quarterback Zach Taylor fakes the hands off, uses his legs, stiff arms a man, and he hurdles his way, even somersaults into the end zone. Yoakum with the lead early on, 7-0 in that game. But Yoakum with the ball again. Taylor tosses it to Xavier Barnett. He runs through one tackle. Oh, it gets hit another one. He's powering his way through, pulling his inner beast mode. He finally gets tackled by a cast of crabs. What a run by Barnett. Yoakum hands it off, trying to get something going. But the Calhoun Sand Crabs force a fumble and take over in their own field position. But hey, they'll take the turnover nonetheless. This is a great game. Calhoun trying to claw their way into the red zone. A toss to Derek Salinas will do it for most of the work anyway. He gets a 50-plus yard run. This time, Calhoun gives it to the big man, Jace Campos, and he's like a tank charging into the end zone. Yoakum still up 7-6. Calhoun had only thrown a total of 4 times all year, but that changed tonight. The Calhoun Sand Crabs go to the air, and Athen Morales catches the ball, makes the grab at the 40-yard line, putting them in Bulldog territory. But Calhoun, quarterback, deciding to keep it for himself this time. He goes in, Alex Parker for the score. Calhoun with the lead. Shortly after that, Yoakum, they get the ball back in great field position, and they decide to run some flood routes. Taylor rolling out to his left, slings it in to Barnett, connects with him again for the score. This game went down to the wire. Oh my goodness, it lived up to the hype. 20-19. The Yoakum Bulldogs came in ranked number 10 in the state, and they go on to win by 1 point. Not a bad loss for Calhoun there. Yoakum will go on and play Gonzales next week, and the Calhoun Sand Crabs will take on Gregory Portland. We'll be sure to check in with Zach in a little bit as he has all the details on that game. Now the Cuero Gobblers were in Phil Danaher Stadium to take on the Cal Allen Wildcats. Cuero near the goal line, and running back Kenneth Jackson goes in for the first score of the day. Now late in the second quarter, Cuero up 15-14. Handoff to number 9, Dalen Gibbs, 61 yards to the house, 21-15, headed into overtime. Or excuse me, not overtime, halftime. But shortly after that, the Cuero Gobblers were just on fire, and that's the scoreboard there showing the score there. They would go and get some more points. But Shondalyn Salazar would go in for that score for the next one, and this game unfortunately got canceled. Like I mentioned, this is going to be a day filled with canceled games. Cuero did have the lead at halftime, but they do get canceled 22-14. Cuero will take on Beeville Jones. We don't know what would have happened in that game. Maybe Cuero goes on to win it, and maybe pretty handily, but you can never count out the Calhoun Wildcats with their history. But coming up after the break, like I mentioned, we'll talk to Zach Brown, who has all the latest in our game of the week, and we'll hopefully catch a few more highlights. Not sure, we're still working on getting them all done. But grab a drink and a snack, but don't go anywhere because we'll be right back. Are back. Well, as they say, the weather may be bothersome, but the show must go on. Now let's check in with sports reporter Zach Brown, who is in Yoakum with the head coach for the game-winning coach. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, thanks, Gino. Here with the head coach of the victorious Yoakum Bulldogs. Coach, what a hard-fought victory against a very good Calhoun team tonight.
It was tough. You know, those guys, they're awfully well coached. They play hard, and it took everything we had to get the win tonight.
Calhoun's kind of one of those underrated teams. They didn't have the greatest record last year, but went 3 rounds deep into the postseason. What makes them so tough to stop?
Well, Richard Whitaker is a heck of a football coach, and he's got a good staff. And you know, they run the flex bone offense, and you see that once a year. You know, people just don't run that anymore. And you know, luckily we got some older coaches that used to play against that stuff back in the day, and we kindly know how to defense it a little bit, but it's tough to get ready for, and Richard does a great way. They make you wrong. It doesn't matter how you line up on defense, they'll make you wrong.
Well, they run that offense, but then we have the lightning delay that was 30 minutes, so it's almost like a halftime, if you want. They come out, and they're just slinging the ball. They've thrown the ball 4 times all year and just came out throwing. Did that kind of throw you guys off a little bit?
No, not really. We knew they were going to do it, and when they do throw it, it's going to be a big play because, I mean, you've got to sell out to stop the run. But, yeah, luckily they missed a couple of those early, and like I said, we held on.
All right, Coach, and what's for dinner tonight? I heard your wife talking to you.
I'm hoping cheeseburgers.
All right, well, I'll let you get to that. I'm going to get your player over here. This is Taiwan Garza, who is a defensive end and a running back as well. They had some big plays tonight. You guys had to stop a very tough Calhoun team. How tough is it to defend against that triple option of Calhoun?
It's hard because you never know who's getting the ball. It's very hard because then the fullback or the end would come around and turn around. It's difficult, but we managed to stop it.
How'd you guys kind of prepare for that in practice? Because you kind of can't prepare for it. I mean, when there's 3 or 4 different guys that can get the ball low and you have to defend the pass as well. How did you guys kind of practice for that this week?
Well, the only thing we did was bear crawl through our linemen's legs, and that's the only thing we could do. We can't do nothing else. If you stand straight up, you're going to get driven back. There's nothing you can do but go through their legs.
Yeah, they got a very good offensive line. You guys had a very good defensive line. And so, also, I mean, you guys lost to a very good Cuero team last year. You stayed top 10 in the state rankings, pulled out a tough win tonight against a team that went far in the playoffs last year. What's next for this team? How do you get better, and what are you looking forward to the rest of your senior year?
Communication and just getting with the guys more. It's a lot of stuff on and off the field. You got our teammates not cheering and stuff. When we're losing, it's bad. So we just got to pick up a lot of stuff.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure it'll get better from here on out. Congratulations on a huge win. All right, Gino, going to throw it on back to you here from Yoakum Bulldog Stadium.
Thanks, Zach. I spoke to that young man earlier in the year, and he said it is state or bust. They have all kinds of expectations there in Yoakum, so good to see that from that young man and a good victory for Yoakum. Now we check out the Ganado Indians, which are coming off a loss to the East Bernard Brahmas. Now it looked as if the Dansbury Panthers were going to get on the board early, but on a 4th down, the Indian defense came up big and stuffed the quarterback, forcing a turnover on downs. Shortly after that, the Indian quarterback said, hey, it's not that hard to use my legs, and Bryce Ullman fakes the toss. He does a little spin before finally being brought down in Panther territory. Now, watch this. He said, I can use my arm too. Tosses it to the right-hand side. Austin Pena follows his blockers, and I know he's not on the screen, but I do know he scored a touchdown after 42 yards, 7-0 Indians. Ganado forcing a punt. Luke Burris back to receive it. The punt is off clean, and normally when we show special teams highlights like this, they go off with a hitch, and he is gone. Everyone is blocked. See you later, alligator. But wait, look at the 20. There's a little yellow flag there, piece of laundry somebody forgot to pick up, and it gets called back. Ganado, though, they just hand it off to Dylan Holt. He gets the rock, skirt in for the touchdown. They go up 13-0. Indians with the lead. Special teams missed the kick, but the defense said, hey, we'll make up for it, and we'll get a safety in the end zone. Great job for them, 15-0 Ganado. The Indians stay hot. Ullman deciding to drop back, hit as he throws, and finds a wide open Kane Hayden on the corner route for the score. This one would get carried away. Final score, 49-0. Dansbury was so close at one point, but could not punch it in. They fall and get the shutout. Ganado's looking really hot this year, and they're going to have a big game against Shiner. I know they're going to be wanting to have their best game of the year. Shiner has been pretty dominant against Ganado the past few years, so Ganado is going to try and take this momentum from this 49-0 win into Shiner. We'll check in with Shiner here in a little bit. Now let's check in with all the scores from around the area, and of course, there are a lot of them. We start with the St. Joseph Flyers. They lose their second game in a row. Now they fall to the other St. Joseph team, the Bloodhounds, 43-21. The Flyers are going to take on Austin Regents next week. Next up, we got the El Campo Ricebirds. They get another win, their second in a row, 48-18 over the Wharton Tigers. That was a Wharton battle. Pretty good one there. El Campo gets that win. Now, like I mentioned, there's a lot of canceled games. The Edna Cowboys and Sinton Pirates. This game ended before it could even start. And Edna will take on London next week. That's the 2 weeks in a row that they're going to have to face the Pirates. Now the Tidehaven Tigers, this game was also canceled. Didn't even have a chance to start. Darius McCormick, our reporter, was there, and he was there for the pep rally. The homecoming. They still had the homecoming, but this game could not get going. Tidehaven and Industrial will in that game. Tigers will play Rice, and the Cobras will take on the Goliad Tigers. Next up, we go to Goliad, speaking of, and they fall to the Jourdanton Indians 41-20. The Industrials are going to take on Goliad. That'll be a good game. Maybe, potentially, could be our game of the week. We'll have to keep an eye out for that one. But next up, we go to the Palacios Sharks, who are still looking for a win. 56-7, they fall. Palacios will take on Mathis next week. Next up, we got the Hallettsville Brahmas. They fall. This is a shocker. First loss of the year, 57-28. They fall to the Piper Warriors, and the Shiner Comanches losing 49-6 to East Bernard. East Bernard is a bigger school and pretty good, but they fall. They are 0-4. Pretty crazy to say. This game was also canceled. Yorktown and Stockdale. Yorktown will take on Somerville next week as well. And the Sacred Heart Indians get the win over the Louise Hornets, 38-0. Louise is off because Runge canceled its season. And this game is tomorrow, Shiner St. Paul versus Bernie Geneva School, and that one will be tomorrow, like I said. And guys, thank you for bearing with us and bearing with all this weather that we've had to deal with, but have a good one, Crossroads. We'll see you next week.